Oh my god. This is the last Chibnall Who episode I have to cover before his final episode. This episode has been haunting me for years because at one point I kinda enjoyed it. I think it might have been the premise that blindsided me to how appalling this episode truly is. You only know how bad it is until it's over, if you catch my drift. Thankfully, this episode is short as fuck and hopefully won't take too long to analyze. Well... Okay, looks like we're combing through this one real slowly. It honestly does rush through so much that you don't get a real chance to take anything in. Not that there's really anything to take in. Once upon a time, the producers of Doctor Who threw together a collection of footage from the entire Moffat era up until that point. And that's how this episode starts. Contrasting with that heavy metal excitement, we get to see how Rory and Amy struggle to deal with everyday life in July.
Milk, 2 months out of date. Yogurt.
We've run out of washing tablets.
Opting to portray them like a couple of addicts trying to give up smoking.
Not today, though.
Nah, not today.
Succinctly describes their life with a dash of humour. It's not inconceivable that the Doctor could have just landed on their days off either, but I would have really liked to have seen some conflict to have arisen from this undefined arrangement beyond, I have work today. So what? The cubes then arrive and they're fucking everywhere. Don't believe me? There's even a Davies era set of newsreels to emphasise how widespread they are. Alan Sugar would fire somebody later for not selling enough cubes. That was pretty hilarious. Honestly, it was quite a nice setup. Even having Brian Cox acting as a scientific advisor for the news broadcasts excellently segues the episode into the Doctor not having a clue. He doesn't even have a clue about what his companions' jobs are. Amy's now writing travel articles, presumably from all the travelling she's done with the Doctor. It's all excellent. I love it. What could possibly go wrong? Suddenly, Unit breaks into the couple's house and we get the rundown of what the military knows about the cubes.
We've subjected them to temperatures of plus and minus 200 Celsius, dropped one out of a helicopter at 10,000 feet and rolled our best tank over it.
It was a shame that this was all blurted out of Kate Stewart's mouth as opposed to filming these rather hilarious scenarios and seeing it for ourselves. I wonder what particular mustached individual would have something to say about that.
Taking pictures, making films, posting them on Flickr and YouTube. Within 3 hours, the cubes had 1,000 separate Twitter accounts.
Once again, the show could have done some legwork and actually created this stuff online in real life. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't know. Given how this episode aired nearly 10 years ago, I doubt such evidence would be easy to find. And Flickr?
Flickr and YouTube.
The fuck's a Flickr? I end up wondering if scriptwriters are encouraged to write this kind of social media savvy and expository dialogue to save money, or if they just do it compulsively. At least we got to see Rory in his pants. 4 days pass and the Doctor starts to have a paddy about being patient. I suddenly had these vivid memories of those ghastly episodes with James Corden and realised this was basically becoming another domestic episode. Look no further than a bizarre little montage of the Doctor playing keepy-uppies and doing all the chores that haven't been done, presumably as a result of the cubes showing up. He's even seen playing a Nintendo Wii later on. Oh my god, this episode is really showing its age. 4 days is still a length of time worthy of at least something happening though, even if it's nothing to do with the cubes. Rory's dad was sitting in the TARDIS for 4 days. Just hit the pause button on reality, why don't you? A week then passes thanks to another film-the-screen news montage. This is where friends and colleagues of the couple just summarise their social status and career performances.
You've missed quite a few things the last year or two.
Everyone here loves you, the nurses, the doctors. You're a lifesaver, mate, literally.
Wouldn't it have been nice to see this development over the course of 2 series instead of merely establishing it here and now? It's so awkward and boring having characters we've never seen before merely describe the companions right to their faces.
There are months when we don't see you, and we can't do without you. I want you to go full-time.
Full-time. Blimey.
So apparently this absence has affected Amy's ability to hold down a job, but not Rory's? I assume that once you become a nurse, you can probably work anywhere, but the man said months. Months. I can't imagine any form of employment where this is acceptable without good reason. All this is essentially in aid of showing that the couple are happier settling down than, say, at the end of The Big Bang. Despite them being this close to divorcing 3 episodes ago, suddenly everything's rosy because because the Doctor's not in their life? I'm so confused. We then jump to Brian's log, which establishes the cubes have been around for at least 2 months.
Brian's log, day 67.
You can't call it that. Brian's log.
I imagine Rory would be saying this if this was Brian's first entry. Almost immediately after this cringy gag, we jump forward another 4 months to Christmas.
Mr. Ryan, please.
What the fuck? I am absolutely speechless. I guess this is supposed to be some absurdist take on people who take the piss in A&E, and I give it the full seal of approval. We then see another montage of cubes in an office environment. Hey, look, it's the creator of Doctor Who. I appreciate the creativity, but why are they holding cutlery down? They're not going to blow away. 11 whole months have gone by since the invasion of the cubes, and Amy is literally giving another rundown of the events we missed.
The UN classified the cubes as provisionally safe, whatever that means. The cubes, well, they're just here, still.
Suddenly, the couple are taken from their anniversary party to the Savoy Hotel for the night, which turns out to be an absolute bloody nightmare of telling and not showing.
Zygon ship under the Savoy, half the staff imposters. It's all fixed now, eh?
Somebody was talking and I just said yes.
It's a wedding vows. You just married Henry VIII on our anniversary.
I think 7 weeks of adventures for an anniversary present would have made for a great episode in and of itself. Back at the party, Brian, the interrogator slash pseudo companion, decides to ask the Doctor some very personal questions.
What happened to the other people who travel with you?
God, this acts on so many assumptions about Brian's character that never get established. How does he even know that other people travelled with him in the past? Did the pair bond so much during their trips abroad that the Doctor decided to take out the old photo album? For a character who has been in only 1 episode prior to this one, it seems a bit insulting to the audience to put this in here. And it's not like the Doctor provides any new information to us either.
Some left me, some got left behind, and some died.
So after 15 minutes of faffing screen time, the cubes start activating. They do a variety of things, none of which serve a purpose beyond surveying the planet. They're just so random. The Doctor and Amy go to learn more at the unit base. Inside, there's a bloke sat at a computer which apparently has everything you could ever want on it. Communications with every nation on the planet. The ability to monitor every single cube on the planet.
They've stopped. The cubes across the world, they just shut down.
Active for 47 minutes and then they just die?
Well, thank God for that. I don't know how much more randomness I could take. So instead of analysing the 47 minutes worth of data Unit now has access to, the Doctor chats to Amy about her settling down. Apparently, this conversation is what leads the Doctor to simply decide that the cubes were gathering all the information about the planet they needed in that 47-minute time window. Why they weren't doing this from day one, though, is beyond me.
7, what's important about 7? 7 wonders of the world, 7 streams of the river Ota, 7 sides of a cube.
A cube has 6 sides.
Not if you count me inside.
Am I going mad? Am I absolutely cuckoo? Are you talking about faces? Edges? I don't understand how 7 enters into the mix. So our famous Chibnall countdown commences, and the Doctor claims that the cubes should have been disposed of on day 1. Speaking of disposal, I thought it was hilarious that the same litter bin from 1 month earlier remained unemptied, with nobody else bothering to add anything to it either. It's here that we find out why they remained dormant for 361 days.
Why is it starting now? I mean, the cubes arrived months ago. Why wait this long?
Because they're clever.
Fucking hell, lad. I loved this totally not ambiguous instruction to Amy and Kate right here as well.
We need to think of all the variables, all the possibilities. Okay, go, 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 go!
Oh, you want them to think, do you? And that requires running off to a special room, doesn't it? We're back at the hospital after Kate instructs governments to instruct news stations to instruct the people to dispose of their cubes. Systematically, everyone is putting cubes into boxes and all sorts, whilst Brian is instructed to get some bits and bobs from the store cupboard. For some reason, that main hallway we've seen throughout the episode is filled with cubes and people, but this part of the hospital that's just around the corner is not. This moment could operate in two ways. It either has sinister overtones, or it doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm erring towards believing it's the latter, because all the stuff with the face mask dudes and the surveillance girl don't make any sense. Earlier on, these masked chappies go into some ward where a bloke's waiting for his prescription. They start weirdly closing in on him, and instead of panicking or running away or doing anything, the bloke pulls down both their masks. Brian seemed to be their next victim. Instead of sneaking up behind him, knocking him out and putting him on the stretcher, they magically appear out of nowhere like they have Margaret Blaine's earring teleporter and rush past him. Just look at this. How did they film both ends of the corridor and then have them appear like this? We're also made to believe that for 6 months these two dudes and the little girl have been kidnapping people and taking them to the spaceship hovering above Earth. For what purpose? We will never know. On the ground level, this issue of vanishing patients hasn't been picked up by the staff. At no point are Rory and his buddy nurse concerned about their patients fucking vanishing from right under their noses, nor that an elevator has been out of service for 6 months either. Rory then moves from busy corridor to silent corridor and chases the kidnappers into said elevator. He seems to get a funky sixth sense feeling about the wall to his right and winds up on the previously mentioned ship. What a gargantuan coincidence that Rory's hospital is the one where an alien spaceship has a teleport to. The Doctor then locks himself into a room with one of the cubes, where we get the big reveal that when a cube opens, it's empty. 1 whole minute of screen time later, suddenly people are having heart attacks.
There's CCTV feeds from across the world showing the same.
People are dying.
People are dying! People are dying! People are dying!
The Doctor explains this as being the result of a power cut that happened briefly earlier.
They made a complete assessment of planet Earth and its inhabitants. Problem with the power?
Trouble is, all the attention was on the cube having the number 7 show up, and then the lights came back on. Nothing else happened as a result of this global power cut because we only saw it at the unit base. Had it affected the hospital in some way, it might have been a more impactful plot element. This significant delay between the boxes opening and people having heart attacks made the scenario all the more confusing. Why couldn't there have been a quick bolt of lightning that would have dramatically stopped one of the Doctor's hearts? Apparently there are also 7 transmitter locations. What the fuck has this got to do with anything? Thanks to the all-knowing computer screen with glasses boy, the Doctor, Amy and Kate show up at the hospital.
Tell the world. Tell them how to deal with this. The world needs your leadership right now.
Tell the world? Tell the world? My God, isn't it a treat not seeing every nation on planet Earth unanimously act based on one British woman's instructions? What a miracle it is that they are not all listening and subsequently putting it onto the news channels simultaneously. They don't have the news on their telescreens 24/7 and aren't busy eating, sleeping, living their goddamn lives. Because we all live in a society. So much then happens at once, it's just preposterous. The Doctor finds the little girl and disables her because apparently that needed to happen. He then starts going into cardiac arrest, where Amy grabs a defib unit and resuscitates him. So I'm meant to believe that whilst 1/3 of the fucking population are having cardiac arrest right now, there's a defib unit not in use that happens to be right next to you. By the power of the gods, this sorts out the Doctor and they rush into the lift with some spectacularly bad lighting for such a yellow lift. How they managed to get it right with Rory but so horribly wrong with the other two is not just beyond me, but a million miles away from me. Everybody's aboard the spaceship in the hope of finding finding some answers. Rory and Brian, who are both unconscious, are awoken by some outlawed smelling salts the Doctor just materialised in his hand for the occasion. In typical Chibnall fashion, this freaky bad guy on board the ship starts justifying his actions to the Doctor.
The Chakri exist in all of time and none. We travel alone and together.
But why?
Serving the word of the Tally.
What?
The Tally. The Tally.
Tally.
The Tally.
The Doctor seems to be the translator for this absolutely eyebrow-raising villain that's just been put before us.
The Seven.
The Chakri craft connected to Earth through 7 portals in 7 minutes.
The Chakri will halt the human plague before the spread.
Erase humanity before it colonizes space.
Suddenly the companions arrived back in the room.
What is this tally, anyway?
I'm sorry, you left the room with Brian on a stretcher, and only then did the dude start mentioning the tally. How did you keep up with the conversation when you weren't even in the room? And holy shit, the Doctor runs his mouth explaining what he's doing whilst using his sonic screwdriver. He stops more cubes being released and uses the cubes to resuscitate those who went into cardiac arrest. All this done with him zapping a screen with his sonic screwdriver. Fucking love it. Also, what about all the other unconscious people lying around here? You couldn't have saved them and then zapped the window to blow up the ship? No?
You really are as remarkable as Dad said.
So, did it suck? Ultimately, yes. This episode tries to rush through 2 stories at once. Both are as intriguing as each other, but are painfully rushed through. One has the worst payoff on the planet, and the other is mildly interesting. They clash together really awkwardly, fighting to gain priority over each other. Outside of the fleeting bits of comedy and a promising scenario, there's not a lot I enjoy about this episode. The telling and not showing, super convenience, cringy moments, and the pointlessness of some of the plot elements. With the Doctor sonicking his way to victory at the end, why would I ever watch this again only to be bitterly disappointed? I give The Power of Three a 3 out of 3. Damn. That was surprising. A boop a doop doop. A doop a doop doop. A doop a doop a doop a doop a doop a doop doop. The cubes were gathering all the information about the planet they needed in that 74,000 minute window.